classic rock albums that, of course, I love, it's these 4 records that are the records that forever changed me as a guitarist and a collaborator. The common thread that runs between them all is the usage of memorable hooks and judicious dissonance. Say that 5 times fast. I'm Eric Haugen. Check the description box below for tabs and backing tracks on my website, information about exactly what sound tools I'm using today, live streams, and more on Patreon and my deep dive courses. It's all on my website. With Television Marquee Moon, there's something almost classical in the way that Tom Verlaine and Richard Lloyd work together. Let's look at some of Guiding Light. Let's look at what Tom does behind Richard's solo there. The chords are just B and E. Check it. So he's not going to grab the whole chord. He's going to arpeggiate it very nicely. Maybe the first takeaway, if you want your band to sound a little bit more like Television, is don't chop wood, arpeggiate stuff. All right, let's look at what Lloyd did here. Very hooky melody. Comes around again. And let's just think for a minute about maybe where he saw those chords. This is definitely the B.B. King box for a B. It is interesting that he went... I guess he's thinking of, B major. Yeah, he's thinking of B major. He's one of these people who can play the major scale and make it sound not like an exercise. That's not easy to do. And then it's going to come around to the F sharp. So he sees this G sharp. He's going to bend it up until it gets to that A sharp. This part's so cool. That's actually tricky. You're on this note here. Comes around again, and then it's like a short version, because another thing I noticed Television does, they'll clip beats out of a bar to get to the next section. Kind of creates a jarring effect. So that end of that turnaround. I want to point out one thing about these bends. I'm going to get my Eric's View thing, because, with these kind of like Gilmore bends also. So I'm on that 13. When I hit that 12, this came down. So don't be afraid to stop strings with this part of the hand. Joey Santiago is the most approachable of the guitarists I'm discussing today, as in his chops are minimal, but his ideas are so very singable. Let's look at a little piece of number 13, baby. First, let's look at what Frank Black was doing, which is really interesting. Again, not bashing the whole chord. Upon which, Joey does this. When you have to pick a lot, instead of crossing like this with the pick, I will rotate it back this way. It might work for you, it might not, but again, it's the difference between this and this. As the song fades, he kind of plays around with this idea, which, let's think about. Here's G blues, and a little kind of extension box. So that's where that comes from, just a simple idea. from Joey, I think we can grab the idea of it's okay to make it simple and hooky. Tom Waits' Rain Dogs is the most eclectic album on this list, and it's what I often tell people to go check out if they're curious about someone like Tom Waits, who has, a vast catalog. The reason I say that is because it contains all the personalities of Tom Waits. It's got the jazzy side, it's got the poet side, it's got the folky side, it's got the gospel side, it's got the bluesy side, it's got the carnival barker, all in one record. And it is full of really cool guitar players doing cool stuff. Mark Ribot, Robert Quine, Keith Richards, G.E. Smith, like everybody's on that record. And yeah, it's a vibe. A little tone tip for Mark Ribot is he has, at least on that song, a very quick delay on that guitar. Definitely part of his sound for that time period. You could use an analog delay, you could use a digital delay. It doesn't really matter. Just set it pretty quick. And, the mix, not too high so it doesn't take over your signal. Now, yeah, let's look at clap hands. The chords are just mostly B minor, and then it goes to a G7. So we come in there with... Again, stopping that string. I'm catching it with the pick, too. Goes up to a little bluesy extension box. That's just blues at that point. And then this is the vibe right here. This is the sound of what happens if you threw your guitar down the stairs. That's the thing right there. That why did you do that? Why are those notes there? It's one of those things we could hypothesize all day. My only little maybe takeaway is there's this trick. That's like, I don't know, guitar teachers, that gets passed down from guitar teacher to guitar student through the eons. So that lick is sort of from one of those. It's completely, it's almost completely atonal. And this hurts my brain as a person who went to music school. He is sitting there on a C when the chord is on a G7. That's what he did. And then it goes back to the B minor. He's going to sit right there. I mean, that kind of makes sense to me. But yeah, that's a really wonky section. That's cool. Yeah, and you push this 15 up and you go ahead and get the next 15 as you go there. I think on his, he might get both of them. But yeah, there you go. My takeaway for if you want to sound like Mark Ribot, you could play standard blues stuff. Just make sure that there's some big jumps in there. That's like my, Mark Ribot in 8 seconds. Dave Rawlings is the floatiest of all the guitar players I'm talking about today, and the way him and Gillian work together, it's just absolutely magic. What I often say is that Dave Rawlings is like the Miles Davis of bluegrass, in that he took what came before him and kind of stretched it all out. Nothing ever feels super kind of piled on or compressed, and like, he's not as hooky as the other people that I'm talking about today, but he's so freaking magical in what he does. All right, let's look at Revelator. The first chord is gonna be an E minor. And so he is putting in an F sharp along with the G. So there's dissonance. It's totally like this. The title track starts with a minor second. Little detour about this guitar here. Welcome to the channel, Elsie. This guitar was built by my sister-in-law's grandfather. Was it Tommy Boswell in Nashville, Tennessee in the 60s? He made it for his wife, Elsie. It got passed down around the family, ended up in closets for years. And I had Daniel Fields repair the bridge for me because, yeah, the bridge had cracked over time. It's a cool old guitar. Old wood. Old wood always sounds good. Here comes a C chord. I've heard Dave talk about this where it's like, hey, Dave, what scales do you use? Oh, I don't know. Like, there's like an E area and kind of like a C area. So yeah, he's playing to the changes. And this is interesting. The third chord is some kind of an A, you know, with the capo. By the way, capos aren't a crutch. They're a tool. He's going to imply this A triad over here with that sus4 in there. And then that G there, again, using the open, that's why the capo is cool, so you can get the open strings. And then it's interesting. There's some kind of a C chord, but he's just going against that. Let that open string in. Comes around again to an E minor. You know, of course, yeah, it's really an A, but we're in reference to capo. Which is, yeah, you know, he's thinking about how did he find those notes. Well, there's E. Yeah, that's very folksy. Very Fairport Convention right there. Another great record, Liege and Leaf. Just droning away with this G. I know it's not really a G, but you know, to him it is. And then, yeah, when it gets to the A chord this time around, just lets those notes bump into each other. On an acoustic, the overtones are so pretty. Like, even when I mute those strings, the other strings ring out. That's one of the cool things about acoustic. This is so counterintuitive on this C chord. Here's a C. He comes out there with the C and the D together, a major second. By the way, here's a playlist I made with all my vid lessons on these artists. I think there's more than 40 videos that I've made featuring this stuff. So if you're like, cool, do you have more lessons on this? Yes, I do. Boom, there it is. One last thing, even though, yes, this is a YouTube guitar lesson, it's never really just about the guitarist. It's about the songwriting. It's about the arranging, the production, and the recording. There's so much that goes into making the music that we love. I just wanted to make sure that we don't focus too much on the guitar. There's a lot of other things at play. I hope this video was some good infotainment for you. If you enjoyed it, please like, subscribe, and share. That stuff costs you nothing and definitely helps me out a lot. One more time, how my business works. Patreon is where there's every backing track I've ever made, live Q&A seminars, charts, and more. I update that every week, and I make comprehensive deep dive courses. I am putting together an acoustic course as we speak. I'll be filming that in March. Who knows when it'll actually come out. As Bill and Ted would say, be excellent to each other. That includes yourself. Happy Friday. Eat pizza.